Hey, welcome to Living the Next Chapter. It's Dave. Nice to have you back. Today's guest on the podcast, Lana McAra, is coming on. Lana is an author. She has multiple books out. I think we talked about 42 books. She's a ghostwriter. She started her writing career on happenstance when her mother-in-law dropped some magazines off at her house. She waited 14 years, I think it was, waded through rejection letters and pauses and everything that would make you stop writing. And now she has found her spot, and she's got books coming out under her own name. And so happy to have Lana here on the podcast, Living the Next Chapter. Make sure you check out the show notes and go give Lana a little love for her time and her expertise here on the podcast. Thanks for listening. Here we go.
I write impact-driven fiction. And so what that means is that all my books have a strong theme, a strong message. And Shaken But Not Stirred is actually like a mini picture of what happened to me with the stalking situation. It's fiction. None of the people in there resemble anything like what happened to me. None of the characters resemble me. None of the characters resemble the person who did it. But the escalation, what the police do, what they don't do, how to protect yourself helps. And I have author's note at the end, how to help yourself, get with people who can help you. All of these things are in the novel to give a living demonstration of how this whole thing works and what to do to protect yourself, because we feel so helpless. Law enforcement is not preemptive. They only come in after the fact. So if you call them and say, someone is going to hurt me, they can't do anything. They need evidence. They need all this stuff in order to take real action. So it is up to us to protect ourselves. And that's part of what the book is about. Now, in the book, the woman doesn't know who the stalker is. That's the mystery. Who's doing this to me? I knew who my stalker was. But yet it goes through the process to show what happens and how to protect yourself. You know, if you should, knock on wood, God forbid, ever get into that kind of a situation, how to help yourself. And it's going to help a lot of people. And because of that book, I also relaunched my writer's course that I was doing years ago. And it's called How to Write a Novel That Sells at howtowriteanovelthatsells.com, to show people, how do you take your life lessons? How do you take these before and after moments to help people, to improve someone's life? That is really, to me, that's why I love fiction so much. When you write a self-help book, only a certain type of person is going to read it. But if you write a gripping fiction story that holds the reader to the end, it's a mystery, you got to find out what happens, you can really make some positive changes, mindset shifts, and so forth to help people have a better life at the end. And that is, I'm sold on fiction. I am a fiction advocate, because you write a lecturing kind of book, it goes into people's heads. You write something that's a story with a strong, powerful message, it goes into their heart. Such a difference. Hello, this is Lana McAra, and welcome to the Living Next Chapter podcast.
Beautiful. Thank you, Lana. This is great. Welcome, everyone, to Living the Next Chapter. As you've heard, we have a great guest with us today. And this author has written a lot of books. She is also an expert speaker. If you need a speaker, you need someone to come up and just motivate and inspire your group, she's here for you. We have so many great things to talk about, Lana. Welcome to the podcast. Happy to have you here today.
Thanks so much, Dave. I've been excited about this for a while now.
See, we met and chatted, so for a spoiler alert for anyone listening, we've already had a great conversation. And again, I mentioned that together when we were talking, I like to make notes about my guests so that I can remember and our conversation and everything in our connection. And let's just call Lana, according to my notes, super nice. So Lana, welcome to the podcast. It's so nice to have a super nice guest on the podcast today. Where are you joining us today?
I'm in northern Florida, just outside of Jacksonville.
Northern Florida. And again, we're up here in Canada, so we are jealous. We send all of our seniors down to Florida every year, and they come back smiling and happy. So thank you for taking care of Canadians every year. That's great.
I love Florida. We had a cold snap a little while ago. It got down to, I think, 19 degrees, and within 2 days, I had on the air conditioner, and when I was turning on the air conditioner, I went, I love Florida. I love Florida.
Yes, our air conditioner is covered in a tarp and waiting till next summer. So, yes, I'm a little jealous, but it's great to have you with us today. So we were talking in the past, you have written so many books, and I've had a ghostwriter on in the past before, and you shared a little bit about your journey as a writer. And a lot of the books that you've written, many of the books you've written, have been written as a ghostwriter. And I think I have up on my sheets here, I have like the 42nd book is coming up in the spring of this year. Is that correct?
Yes. Book number 42.
Oh, gosh. 42. I don't even know how I'd keep them all straight. I'm trying to remember them all. Can you take us back to the beginning about your journey as an author and that moment when you said, I'm going to pursue writing? Was there a clear, defined moment for that, or was it kind of a lifetime journey?
It wasn't like one moment, but it was several peak moments. Let's just put it that way. I started writing when I was 24. I was a stay-at-home mom with, I think I was on baby number 3 at the time. I had 7 children, so I was in the early stages of baby after baby. I had 2 toddlers.
Wow.
And I was so bored. I was just so bored. My major was in education with an English minor. So I knew how to write, but I didn't like it. I hated college papers. It was not anything I wanted to do. And back then, if you told me I was going to be a best-selling award-winning author of 42 books, I would have said, you are out of your mind. But at the age of 24, my mother-in-law brought over a stack of women's magazines. And she just laid them down. That was unusual. She never did that before or after. But I opened up one of those magazines and it said, you can write children's books. And it was an ad for a writing course, a correspondence course. And I really was just so eager for something to fill my time because I was just washing dishes and doing, diapers and laundry. It was just not mind-numbing. I have an active mind and nothing. We didn't even have a television, it was nothing to do. And as far as mentally. So I took the course and I found out I love creative writing. I absolutely love it. When I found out the difference between academic writing and creative writing, I was hooked because I was such an avid reader all my life. I was such an avid reader that in the 4th grade, I can remember so clearly. I was in the 4th grade. I just went into middle school, and middle school had a tremendous library. And I was so thrilled that I started absolutely devouring the fiction section. I was taking the books out one at a time on the shelf. I would take this one out, then the next one, then the next one, and I would just go shelf by shelf because I was so scared I would miss one. And I literally covered that entire department by the time I was out of 5th grade. So when I found out that I could do this and I loved it, are you kidding? There's just no brainer, right? So I finished the course and I wrote my first book and I didn't get published for 14 years. I found out that, it was kind of like a combination of the type of book I was writing. There was really no market for it at the time. And over those years, the market opened up. I didn't know that back then. I just knew I was getting rejections. But now looking back, that was part of it. But the other piece of it was that I had to go through some personal development to unlock my writing because I was shut down emotionally at that time because of childhood trauma. And until I came through that and was able to express my own emotions, I couldn't really express the emotions of the characters in my books. So I went through a massive shift at the age of 37. And the next year, my book was accepted. That was the 5th iteration, by the way. I rewrote that book 5 times over 14 years. I took it from the present, set it back in the Old West. I did a lot of work, a lot of research in, the historical part of it. But I also went through that personal change. And so I think if you're going to write fiction, your personal development is integral to your success as to being able to tap in to the human experience. If you're shutting yourself down, you can't bring it out, in your characters, whether they're like you or not. You just don't have that connection. So my first peak moment was simply getting published. And my first book was the reader's favorite that year. And the fan mail was absolutely amazing. Oh, my kids would be watching for the mail, and it would come in, and we'd dump all these letters on the dining room table, and they'd be digging in to see who said what. And it was just an amazing time. Magical time. And then 4 years later, I won a national award for a historical fiction novel that I wrote about the Scopes evolution trial, which was real history. And so that Christie Award changed the entire trajectory of my career. But even at that, I was still a stay-at-home mom. Writing was my gig on the side, although I went on to write 20 books in about 15 years. It was something I did for fun. It was my me time. Writing was me time, and I loved it. But I was very busy, raising a large family and all of that. And also, in the meantime, I started getting invitations to speak at writers' conferences and that kind of thing. My publisher hired me to be an editor and book coach after I won the award. So all of this was just like gelling over time, one opportunity at a time, one venture at a time. And I actually started a writer's course. I'm a teacher. That was my major. Teaching people how to write a novel. And that had really good success as well. But, I was a stay-at-home mom. I was married with 7 kids, and I didn't have any idea about anything further until I got a divorce in 2009. And that put me into the market to earn a living. And at that point, it wasn't that I just said, okay, now I'm going to be a professional writer. No, I didn't write for 5 years. I couldn't write. My muse was shut down. I couldn't even write for anybody else. I couldn't write an article. I couldn't write anything. And over that 5-year period, I went through therapy. I went through a lot of other personal development. Again, here we go, personal development. And then after 5 years, I met a book broker who connects people with ghostwriters. I met her at a business conference, and we were standing in the lobby waiting for a shuttle bus. I mean, it was one of those God moments, She said, what do you do? I said, I'm here promoting my marketing. I was doing freelance marketing for people because my books had sold 500,000, and it's because I'm a pretty good marketer. And I thought, well, marketing I can sell. I'll do that. And I said, I'm here to promote my marketing business. I said, what do you do? She said, I'm a book broker. I connect people with ghostwriters. And my eyes flew open, and I went, bing. And that was the start of my ghostwriting career. And I went full-time in 2015. I've been supporting myself full-time since then. So it's been many years now, 16 ghostwritten books later. And now, thank you, COVID. My first book of my own, under my own name, is coming out this year. Actually, 2 books are coming out this year because I had some time. And I couldn't be more thrilled. I feel like I'm getting my life back. The real me is stepping forward here. in the speaking as well as the writing part, because ghostwriting, I've loved it. I've loved my clients. It's been wonderful because every book is different information to learn and to write about and all that. But I've been in the background, and, 2013 is my year now to step forward into my true self and say, here's the real me. You guys have just been seeing kind of the shadow of me up until now for the last few years. So, yeah, I'm so excited.
Have you ever considered ghostwriting before that meeting, waiting for the bus?
My friends were all telling me, what are you doing with this side gig? You're trying to earn a living on a side gig. Why aren't you writing? More than many people said that to me. And my answer was, I don't know how to find clients. I don't know how to vet myself. I don't know how somebody would turn over that much money to me. And because I met someone who was, had a stable of authors, of ghostwriters, then, that was my vetting process. She was doing the marketing to get clients. She was well known in the industry, still is. And so I was able to connect into someone else's stream of clients. And that's really what I needed. I didn't want to create my own business, really. I just wanted work. So that's what I did. Now, I do work for other people besides just this one company at this point. I've got some credentials under my belt now, but back then, I needed that step up from what she was offering.
So let's just imagine for a moment that we are waiting for a bus right now, the two of us having this conversation, and standing beside us is somebody who's never considered ghostwriting before. And they're in a similar place that you were. Let's turn to them right now and tell them about the joys of ghostwriting. What would you say to them if they've never heard about it, they've never even considered it, but it might be the answer for them based on what you've experienced? What would you say to them about writing as a ghostwriter?
Writing as a ghostwriter. Well, there's some key points. First of all, make sure that you have some synchronicity with the client. It's super important to be able to communicate well, to be on the same page as far as expectations of how quickly this will be done, and to have that interest in the topic. I edited a manuscript. It wasn't a full-length book. It was just maybe 25 pages of a document on cryptocurrency. And I found out crypto is not my topic. I want something that excites me, something that's, interesting to me as a writer, because my energy is going into the work. And if I'm bored with it or challenged with it, it's just not going to come out as well, because I need to be able to feed excitement and joy into the manuscript. The second thing is that you have a process. You have a process that you work through with every client. It isn't just like randomly grabbing some material and throwing something out there. You have a process for putting the book together and organizing it. That's one fee. Then you have the process of rolling out the chapters. That's another pay structure. And you treat this as a bona fide business. It is a business. I get paid up front because with information, you give the client the material and they've got it. You can't have a return. You can't get it back. Yeah. And so that is super important also to know your value in the marketplace and to realize that if someone is not willing to meet your pay structure, which is fair, it's a fair pay structure. If they want to bargain with you or try to say they won't pay ahead or whatever, they're not a good client, and just say, thank you very much. I have other business, and keep on rolling. In this process, ghostwriting a book takes 9 months to a year. It's very interactive. They don't just hand you the material and you give them a book. You're going to be working with them in meetings constantly over time. And you need to have a partnership with your client where you feel comfortable, where they feel happy and served. And so then you can roll out this book. It's life-changing for them. And you feel like I am living in my purpose here. I'm helping this person with a wonderful message to get it out to the world. And everyone is happy at the end. And if you have a good relationship, when they decide to do book number 2, they'll be coming calling because you did a wonderful job. So it is a combination of the creative part and the business part. Honoring your deadlines, being on time, delivering the material in a way that is according to their expectations. You help set the expectations, but then you meet the expectations. So I think ghostwriting is wonderful because when you're writing your own material, you don't know how much actual income is going to happen from your own book. You don't know how it's going to sell. You don't know what the scope of it's going to end up being. Nobody does. The best market projections from the biggest companies still don't know what's going to happen once the book comes out. I've seen companies almost go bankrupt because their expectations were too high, their print runs were too big, their marketing was way beyond the scope of their budget. They almost lost their shirt. I know one in particular that came very close to closing down because they didn't know what was going to happen. They thought they knew. And so that being said, if you're writing your own material, you're taking a risk on what's coming back. And the second piece of it is you're not going to get paid for 1.5 to 2 years from now. So ghostwriting for me was, 1, very fulfilling. Number 2, it pays the bills. Yeah. So, you can be very pie in the sky about it, but, at some point you're going to have to pay the mortgage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's take just a rewind for a second. As we go back to the magazines being brought to you by your mother-in-law, set on the table, and that introductory to writing in a new way for you, all the way to today with like 42 books, is there anything that you would go back and redo through your journey as a writer? Or are you happy looking in the rearview mirror at what you see, even with the rejections to your first book and the delays, all those things? Is all of that combined what makes you as an author today? Or is there any part of that you would like to go back and take another run at or change?
There's one major piece that I wish were true in that 14-year period when I was writing and not getting sold. Now, I didn't write children's books. I ended up writing mystery novels, which has been my first love the whole time, but I did learn a lot from that course. And I took a second course later on. But my biggest regret is I didn't have a book coach. If I had had someone looking at my material, giving me feedback, a person, a human being, because these courses I was taking didn't have personal feedback at the level that I needed it. They would come back with these brief notes. Your dialogue is stilted. Well, okay, I understand. I can read that and see that for myself. How do I fix it? And a book coach would have shortened the time for me, I think at least by half or maybe more, because I did not have a resource in how, what I was doing that needed to be improved and how to improve it. I don't think that even existed back then. I didn't, in all the different research that I was doing, I never saw book coaching offered, which now book coaching is something that is commonplace. If you get a good book coach, it means all the difference in the world between self-publishing on Amazon and, having your book sit there, do nothing, or getting an actual contract with a royalty-paying publisher. There's a huge difference in that because a book coach will not only help you improve your writing style, but give you pointers on how to market it, where to look, to get it published, and all these other back end things that I had no clue about, at the time either. I was just out there on my own, trying to get through, trying to break through, and my 19 rejections, were piling up. I just attended a James Patterson book signing. It was very eye-opening for me. James Patterson actually came out with his co-author. I can't even remember that much about it. I'm not, to be honest, a James Patterson fan, but I was really interested in seeing how this took place, what happened. And he said in the interview, because he was on stage in an interview, they called it a book signing. It was actually just an interview on stage. But he said he was rejected 31 times. And at the age of 26, he finally did get published. And I thought, I had a record with 19 rejections, but he had 31 rejections, and he kept going. So, to say that I was out there knocking on doors and they were not opening for me, I wish I had had more help. I feel like I would have gone even further faster, in my career. However, there was the personal development piece. Maybe that would have happened sooner if I'd have had feedback from a book coach. Your characters have locked down emotions, and I would have been looking in like, how do I get to that? How do I do that? Because I had no idea at the time.
Well, thank you for taking us back, because I think that gives us some perspective on the great things that are coming for you. You mentioned you have new books coming. Can you share with us? Because I'm excited to hear about your writing under your name, promoting you as an author. That's a big thing. And I'm really excited to hear what's coming up for us as readers. Can you kind of give us the behind the scenes scoop and catch us up to date to what's coming?
Thank you so much for giving me that opportunity. The first book is already out in pre-publication. It's available on barnesandnoble.com especially. That's the one I really want everybody to go to. But it's available everywhere for pre-order. Okay. It's launching in June. And it's Reaping the Whirlwind by Rosey Dow. Now, my name before divorce, Rosey Dow. If you see my books on the shelf, and they've been all over in Barnes & Noble and everywhere else, during those years when I was writing before as Rosey Dow, D-O-W, R-O-S-E-Y, D-O-W. And Reaping the Whirlwind is the book that won the Christie Award back in 2001. It's my new old book because the publisher went out of business back in, about 10 years ago, about 2012, 2013, something like that. And it went out of print. The publisher died. That was it. And I have been waiting and looking for someone who would reprint that book. And I found someone, Morgan James. Morgan James took it. They have put it out again, new cover, new life. I could not be more delighted. I have it here. This is my author my advanced author copy. It's not available yet. You have to sign up for pre-order. But to have my Christie winner back, it's that is pretty amazing. Just so thankful, that a publisher picked it up. And then my second book is a novel, which Reaping the Whirlwind is a historical novel about the Scopes trial, serial killer during the trial. Fun thing. This one is based on my own experience having a stalker. I had a stalker in 2014, 2015. Terrified me, absolutely terrified me. This person was trying to break into my house in the middle of the night. It was very threatening to me, and I took that trauma. I had to wait a few years to get over it enough to write it, but I wrote it into a mystery, and it's called Shaken But Not Stirred by Lana McAra, my own name. And it's coming out later this year. Olympia Publishing is putting it out. Right now we're at the end of production. I'm waiting for the final on the cover and the final proof of the galleys before they're going to launch it out into pre-production. So I couldn't be more thrilled. So just watch there. It's going to be coming out pretty soon. I don't have a link because we're still just a little bit early on that one. Shaken But Not Stirred.
Nice.
Yes. Thank you.
So we're going to continue the conversation, but for people that are like, okay, but how do I stay in touch? Let's just insert that now. What's the best way for people to follow along with you and see the book updates and stay in touch with you as we await these books to end up in our laps? How do we stay in touch with you?
My website, lanamcara.com, LANAMCARA.com. And over there are a couple of things. There's a link called Recent Releases, and you can sign up to receive some free gifts over there. One of them is for people who are interested in writing a novel. I have some helps. If you're interested in writing a novel, that has helped me, that I use in my own work, free download. And then if you go to the Recent Releases tab, I have a personal development piece that is how to throw away negative thinking in 7 minutes or less. It's a little video. And if you're looking to elevate your thinking and get those negative thoughts out of your head, go over there and get that video. It's so effective. It really works. And that's under the New Releases tab of my website. And that'll put you in the, updates stream too, to get updates.
So we talked a little bit about the power of having a book coach. Do you have recommended sources where people can go and connect with somebody that can help them in their journey, as you were looking for earlier?
Yes, I have a couple of resources. I do book coaching, but that being said, I'm very busy. Good. I'm extremely busy. I'm ghostwriting a 3-book deal right now. I'm trying to put out my second book in that series of Shaken But Not Stirred. I'm speaking. I just got back from Harvard, and my life is very full. Now I'll help you if I can, but I don't know if I can. But I work closely with an organization called Author One Stop. AuthorOneStop.com. This is the company I've been working for 12, 13 years now. And Randy Pizer is amazing. She has a whole stable of book coaches. And check with Author One Stop. And tell Randy I sent you, because she's my gal. I really love her. And she'll take great care of you, if you do
Amazing. That. Now, I know you have another interview today, which is awesome that you had time for us. But I really want to encourage somebody maybe that, let's look forward to the book that's coming. And you talk about the whole incident with being stalked and all of that. I'm anticipating somebody's little radar goes up and goes, this is the book that I need. I'm experiencing something in a similar fashion. What is your book intended to do to help readers who can identify with maybe some of the things that you've been living through in the past? How is this book going to help them?
Oh, wow. Thank you for asking that question. In my process, in my writing, I write impact-driven fiction. And so what that means is that all my books have a strong theme, a strong message. And Shaken But Not Stirred is actually like a mini picture of what happened to me with the stalking situation. It's fiction. None of the people in there resemble anything like what happened to me. None of the characters resemble me. None of the characters resemble the person who did it. But the escalation, what the police do, what they don't do, how to protect yourself helps. And I have author's note at the end, how to help yourself, get with people who can help you. All of these things are in the novel to give a living demonstration of how this whole thing works and what to do to protect yourself, because we feel so helpless. Law enforcement is not preemptive. They only come in after the fact. So if you call them and say someone is going to hurt me, they can't do anything. They need evidence. They need all this stuff in order to take real action. So it is up to us to protect ourselves. And that's part of what the book is about. Now, in the book, the woman doesn't know who the stalker is. That's the mystery. Who's doing this to me? I knew who my stalker was. But yet it goes through the process to show what happens and how to protect yourself. If you should, knock on wood, God forbid, ever get into that kind of a situation, how to help yourself. And it's going to help a lot of people. And because of that book, I also relaunched my writer's course that I was doing years ago. And it's called How to Write a Novel That Sells at howtowriteanovelthatsells.com, to show people, how do you take your life lessons? How do you take these before and after moments to help people, to improve someone's life? That is really, to me, that's why I love fiction so much. When you write a self-help book, only a certain type of person is going to read it. But if you write a gripping fiction story that holds the reader to the end, it's a mystery, you got to find out what happens, you can really make some positive changes, mindset shifts, and so forth to help people have a better life at the end. And that is, I'm sold on fiction. I am a fiction advocate, because you write a lecturing kind of book, it goes into people's heads. You write something that's a story with a strong, powerful message, it goes into their heart. Such a difference.
I love it. And again, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that my guest today would be super nice. And you've definitely overexceeded the title of super nice. And having you on the podcast today and learning from you, I have one more question before I let you go. You talked about when your kids were little and the letters were coming in and people were sending you their notes and their appreciation and their thanks. Are your kids still seeing the notes, the letters, the thanks? Do they still see their mother as this great author with fans and people reaching out to say thank you? Does that still happen? And what does it mean for you as an author to hear back from your audience when they read your book?
Yes, my children do see me in that way. And I have one son who is a community theater star. He's the lead role in every. People come up to me after one of his plays and say, I'm glad, I thought about trying out for this one, but as soon as I saw that he was trying out, I said, forget it. I'll find another one. I'm never going to make it if he's here. But, he has publicly thanked me for his growing up time in Story. Story was something that was a family culture, because I was writing book after book. Kids were reading the books. They were reading the fan mail. And it has affected a lot of them in positive ways, with this whole idea. You can make things, you can create things and see them come to life. That happens. And getting reader feedback and fan mail was pivotal for me. The first time I got my fan mail, never occurred to me I'd get fan mail. I just was trying to get the book out there. And then I got this massive amount of letters, and it just dawned on me, this is communication. What we're putting out there, people are reading, they're imbibing it, and people were telling me about how they were helped. And someone said, I named my new puppy after the dog in the story. I mean, that touched my heart. Yeah. So and also they were wanting a series. That first book, I never dreamed of writing a series. And they were saying, well, what happened to this character? And what happened to that character? And, you can't stop now. We're just getting into it. And I ended up writing 4 books in that series. And the publisher bundled them into one volume, named it Colorado. And that book sold 250,000 copies when they released it as a set, not including what it had sold individually beforehand. So reader feedback was the reason that series even happened. I never thought of doing more. So it is very, very pivotal to get the feedback from people. And when you hear, their story and how their lives were changed and mindset changed and new perspectives on different things, there's just nothing like it. And I just love this life that I am living right now. And my goal is to help more people experience this feeling of helping others through our creative process, through our calling, our passion. That is really what I believe we're here on the planet to do.
And that's a perfect place to end. Thank you so much for making time for us today. We'll have links in the show notes to all of the great resources and ways to get in touch with you so that our audience can then reach out. And my encouragement to anyone listening, when you purchase a book from an author, you can send them a message. You can reach out and thank them. Also leave a review and let other people know how amazing these books are, because they really do matter. So please support your local author, encourage them to keep going, to keep writing, and make that connection. Make it a two-way conversation. And I think that is one way that we can help all of these amazing authors that come on the podcast and share their message with the world. So thank you for being part of the podcast. So happy to have you here. And I hope that we can have you back to talk about the next group of books as they come down the road. So always welcome to come back, please.
Thank you so very much. Wonderful time. Excellent.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks. Check out the show notes for all the information. We'll see you on the next Living the Next Chapter. Thank you for being part of Living the Next Chapter. Hey, look, we're having such a great time talking to authors around the world. If you are an author and you would like to be on this very show, I would love to talk to you. livingthenextchapter.com, livingthenextchapter.com, livingthenextchapter.com is the best way to get in touch with us. There you'll find our social media and blah, 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 la-di-da, and such. You, author, soon-to-be author, new author, currently writing your book author, published author, we need you here. The seat's empty, microphone set up, we're waiting for you. livingthenextchapter.com. We would love to have you on the podcast. Yeah, I'm talking to you. Yeah, you should be here. We'll see you at livingthenextchapter.com.
Mindshift Power Podcast, the podcast for teenagers and those who work with them. There's a huge problem in America today. There's a very large disconnect between teenagers and the adults who work with them. I'm looking to bridge that gap with real, raw, honest conversation, not held back by the chains of political correctness. You cannot solve a problem you do not understand. Want to understand teenagers today? Listen to this podcast. This podcast is for teens in the U.S. and Canada. To learn more, go to fatimabay.com/podcast or just look for Mindshift Power Podcast on any listening platform. I look forward to you being a faithful listener.